So children are in the spotlight a lot at the minute in the press, and more so how this Labour government is adversely affecting their outcomes in life. And I say adversely affecting, somebody's going to turn around and go, well, how do you know that? Well, it's quite easy how I know that. For a start, look at the grooming gangs. We're not investigating the grooming gangs. So we're sending a very clear message that that kind of behaviour is okay. I don't want to go too deeply into that because it's horrible. Is the long and the short of it. And I feel as though there are other people more qualified and better qualified to talk about that than me, but just know that I see it and I hear it. And I have quite strong views on it, which I'm not going to share right now. But then we look at nurseries and schools. What are we doing to kids in nurseries and schools? Well, we're taking away parental choice. So with VAT on education, we've slapped on a charge that the government knew, Rachel Reeves knew, was told explicitly would harm the most vulnerable in society, the kids. So she was told in no uncertain terms that if you add VAT on education in January 2025, it will have the most destructive effect and you will harm those that need education the most. By saying those who need education the most, what I mean by that is need education in the specific setting that they're getting it in. So it's no coincidence that children go to private schools, and for some children they do well. That's because the setting meets their needs. And state has openly said, and the government has openly said, that the setting in state does not meet the needs of a lot of children. Now, that's not necessarily a failure on state's part. That's just acknowledging that if you need more specialised care and support, that can't come without a price tag. So we've got kids in the private sector who have no choice but to pay for the sector that they're in. And Rachel Reeves knew this. She knew that the parents weren't going to take them out. She knew they couldn't take them out, because to do that would be to undo everything that they're in there for. So she banked on the fact that parents would remortgage houses, would cash in pensions if they had a pension, would take on extra jobs, would ask grandparents, would sell any asset that they've got, would do anything they possibly could to keep their child there, because they knew that if they took them out, the alternative would be devastating. So then, if we rewind, we've got nurseries, and the private nursery sector is being squeezed out of existence because state wants everybody, in the same way that they want all schools to be state comprehensive, no grammars, no faith, no selectives, no privates, just state comprehensive, no academies. In the nursery setting, they don't want private nurseries. They want state nurseries, and they want those state nurseries in schools. So they are making it financially impossible for many nurseries to stay afloat. And again, we know this factually. This isn't just me saying it before someone goes, oh, that. Do you know what? Hyperbole, I think, is one of the most overused words on social media. You can just say exaggerate. You know, people use hyperbole because they think it sounds cool. Oh, no thanks, dogs. I only knew that hyperbole meant exaggerate when I heard the Natasha Bedingfield song. Anyway, we digress. Dogs have gone to fight off the other half. So it's no exaggeration. It's fact that 10,000 nurseries closed. Now, they closed because it was unsustainable for them to stay open. And that was because the free hours that they were getting, the government was paying £5.21 towards those free hours, when we know that it was costing, certainly in London and some of the bigger cities, it was costing up to 3 times that. For a lot of places, it was costing double that. So they weren't able to ask the parents to fill that gap. You weren't allowed to make top-up payments. So they were underfunded at source. Unless, of course, it was the state sector, when they were given £5.21 per child in the state sector nurseries, and then the government gave them £5.29 per child to meet the associated costs that the rest of us are having to fund ourselves. So cost of living, national insurance, employer contributions, national minimum wage. I mean, all the things that every other business is having to cover off their own back. The state sector is having that covered by the taxpayer, by government funding. So nurseries are going out of business. Now, obviously, there's the economic impact of this. So we know that economically, for certain towns, when schools and nurseries go out of business, parents can't work. So you've got the direct first port of call, which is, well, all the people that were employed in the schools and the nurseries, they are now job seeking. Then we've got the displaced children. Where are they going to go? And obviously that's not just as easy as going, well, they can go to the States nursery down the road, because of course half of them haven't opened. They've only got limited numbers and they don't offer the same bespoke childcare, wraparound care that the private sector did. So we've got displaced kids, people that have lost their jobs, towns and communities looking very, very different from how they did when they had good nurseries and good schools. And then we look at the parents. So parents are struggling at the minute to meet any bills, whether that be private school bills or nursery bills or swimming lessons or football lessons or feeding or having any heating or having any hot water or paying the mortgage or paying the rent. You know, parents are squeezed. There is no surplus money, which is what Keir Starmer wants. You know, his definition of a working person is someone that doesn't have savings. Well, you've achieved that. So there is no more money to go round. So for a lot of people, when nursery care and wraparound childcare goes, they've got to find it somewhere else. Well, of course, if there's a short demand, the prices do go up in certain areas. And for a lot of parents, it makes no economic sense to go back to work. You're paying more in childcare than you're getting in wages. And for a lot of employers, you know, we're assuming that the employer will say, yes, okay, that's fine after you've done the school run. And yes, of course, you can leave to go and do the school run. It's possible in some places. For sure, it's possible in some places. But for a lot of parents, it's just not possible. And then we get to the other end of the scale, where we're looking at those that work in the NHS, the doctors, the nurses, who have no choice but to work when they work. They can't schedule an operation around the school run, so they have to go into the nursery that will provide the care. They have to pay over and above the odds. Or if that nursery has closed down and there isn't an alternative, what do they do? Who's going to do the operations? And it's not just, I'm using the NHS as an example. It's, of course, across every business in life. You know, this is how life works. We have to have people qualified to do these jobs, no matter what it is, whether it's a surgeon, a lawyer, a vet, a doctor, a builder, a plumber. You know, it's just how it goes. So we've had this phenomenally short-sighted approach to the economy, which is all we want to do is boost state. And by doing that, we'll kill the private sector. But by killing the private sector, we're killing a much bigger part of society by the associated loss. And it will come as no surprise that care homes are taking Rachel Reeves to court, schools are taking Rachel Reeves to court, and nurseries are taking Rachel Reeves to court. Now, most of their cases will be funded by crowdfunding. So you will have the opportunity to decide whether you want to fund and contribute to that. But for the government, it's just coming out your taxpayers' money. So they are using your money to defend the indefensible. And so it goes on. It's the circle, round and round again. And it is like my friend Katie said, it's like they've got a VAR headset on. Is it VAR or VR headset? You know, the ones that the kids use, and they all play sort of tennis and they throw themselves around the room. It's like the government have got a VR headset on. And in their VR headset, they are seeing a rosy-coloured Labour world. And in our real life take on it, we're seeing something that's very unrosy. And it has nothing to aspire to look forward to even maintain. Our slice of that reality is miserable on every level. There's no money. There are very few jobs. There is no childcare. There is no choice. There is no autonomy. There is no doing it your way. The old phrase, you do you, I'll do me. You don't do you anymore. You do them. You do it their way. And it's a bit bleak, honestly speaking. I mean, all I can say is we've got May the 1st fast approaching, which hopefully will bring some nice sunny weather and also the opportunity to vote, you know. And, oh God, don't even get me started on the vote, the 16-year-olds and the vote. But they're not allowed to drive until they're 7, but we're giving them the vote at 16, when most of them can't tell. Let's park that one. We'll do that one another day. So, yeah, that is the nursery picture. And it's pretty bleak.